In this video, I'm going to give you 7 tips that will help improve your U-turns. Now, I have done in-depth videos on these tips, so be sure to check them out after this video. I will leave the links in the description below. And at the end of this video, I'm going to ride this for you, so hang tight. Hey, I'm Paul the Motor Guy, and welcome to my channel. Now, I'm a rider coach, motorcycle sergeant, and owner and instructor at ProRider Central, Texas, where we teach police riding skills to civilian riders. Now, the goal of this channel is to pass on riding tips, practice drills, and defensive riding strategies. So if you're ready to take your skills to the next level, then hit the subscribe button and bell icon so you don't miss any new videos that I post. The dreaded U-turn. For most, it's hearing that makes us nervous, but don't worry. After watching this video, you'll have more confidence. So let's do this. Tip number 1 is throttle and friction zone. Now, I would recommend that you be in the friction zone before you start your turn. That way you already have power to the rear wheel before the motorcycle starts to lean. You need to have constant RPMs to the turn, anywhere from 12 to 1500, but this does not have to be exact. Now, the sensation that you want is that the motorcycle is pulling you around the U-turn, not coasting. Tip number 2, head turn and eye movement. Now, many riders have trouble with proper head turn and eye movement when making U-turns. Now, I know this is much easier said than done, and it takes practice. Now, the common problem I see is that riders usually end up making a partial head turn instead of a full head turn, because they tend to look at the wall instead of behind them, which usually causes the rider to go wide because, that's right, the motorcycle will always go where you look. Now, let me show you what I mean. So as riders are making their U-turn, this is where they tend to look, which makes for a half head turn. But you should be looking as far back behind you as you can, because remember, you want to look where you want to go, which in this exercise is behind you. Now, I believe that a proper head turn plus proper eye movement equals success. So if you don't use your eyes correctly, you can actually counteract your head turn. So tip number 3 is handlebar turn. Now, for some riders, they hear handlebar turn and they get just as nervous as when they hear the word U-turn. But hang with me. The more you can turn the handlebars, the tighter your turn will be. Now, full lock or close to full lock is the goal. But no matter how far you turn your handlebars, you have to commit to the turn. Now, what do I mean by commit to the turn? Well, many riders tend to move the handlebars back and forth when they're making their U-turns. So whenever you open up the handlebars, this widens out your turn. So it's better that you turn the handlebars and just hold what you have. Now, tip number 4 is counterweighting. Now, counterweight is when your body is upright and the motorcycle leans underneath you. Now, despite what you may have heard, counterweighting is not what keeps the motorcycle from falling. At some point, if the motorcycle leans over too much, it's going to fall over because you don't weigh enough to keep it up. Being in the friction zone and having power to the rear wheel is the only thing that keeps the motorcycle upright. Now, counterweighting does take away a lot of sensation of falling when the motorcycle is leaned over. Now, this is because by keeping your body upright, your eyes stay level with the horizon, as opposed to leaning with the motorcycle, which causes the change in the horizon and gives you more of a sensation of falling. Now, tip number 5 is braking with the rear brake. Now, this can be used prior to your turn or during your turn. Now, if you control your speed before starting your U-turn, then you may not need any brake while you're in your turn. But now, if you find yourself going wide, you can use rear brake to take speed off, which will cause the motorcycle to lean more, which will tighten up your turn. But just remember, you're trying to slow the motorcycle, not stop it. So if you need to slow down, you need to drag the rear brake, not stomp on it. Because if you press too hard on the rear brakes, this will cause the motorcycle to stand up and not lean over, which we don't want. Now, tip number 6 is use all your space. So remember, whatever space you give up on one side will translate to the other side. Now, let me show you what I mean. Now, I hope you can see this board here. This is my first time using this board. So let me know what you think. So the black line here is the boundaries to the U-turn box. So the goal is to be as close to the boundary as you can before you start your U-turn. But what I found is riders have trouble with bike placement. And I think for 2 reasons. The first one is because they're so nervous already about the U-turn, and they're thinking about the techniques that they forget about bike placement. So now I'm going to show you why proper bike placement is very, very important. So what happens is if you come in off the line, away from the boundary, whatever space you give up on this side will translate over to the other side. So in this scenario here, you can see the rider's off by 2 feet. So what that does is it takes a 20-foot U-turn box and turns it into an 18-foot U-turn box, which is still doable, but you have to turn the handlebars more and lean the motorcycle more. But why work harder when you can work smarter and just use all your space? Now, tip number 7 is speed. Now, if you keep your speed around 5 to 8 miles per hour, this makes the motorcycle feel more stable. Now, if you ever feel like you're balancing the motorcycle, you're going too slow. But too much speed will force you to go wide unless you have quick handlebar turns. Now, for my demo, I'll be riding a U-turn box that is 20 feet wide. Now, I'm using cycle cones, but you can also use parking spaces as your boundaries. Now, parking spaces are usually about 10 feet wide. Now, I will show you several videos from different views. Now, the first video will be a front view. Now, I want you to notice how I use all my space and control my speed. And I also want you to look at my head and eyes and how I let the motorcycle lean underneath me. Now, let's head outside and ride this. So those are the 7 keys to improving your U-turns. Now, if you found this video helpful, smash that like button and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And also let me know in the comment section below which tip you have the most trouble with. And until next time, practice, 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 and ride safe.